Welcome back to Mr. Orth's Flip Classroom for Grammar. Subject-verb agreement, looking at other problem subjects than ones that have been addressed already in this chapter. First, a collective noun is a group of people or things, but can either be singular or plural. Words like team, class, herd, school, these can be singular or they can be plural. Teams, classes, herds, schools. Those can pose problems when doing subject-verb agreement because they feel like they're plural even when they're not. Words that end in S but are really singular can also cause problems for subject-verb agreement. Civics, economics, those are course titles, but they're really one course, even though they intentionally cover several areas of study. Measles, it's one illness, but it ends in S because there's multiple things across the body. Proper nouns, I mentioned it briefly at the end of the previous lesson, but if it's a title that's one play, one book, one poem, one short story, doesn't matter if it ends in S, it's still considered one book, one poem, one title, and therefore singular. Numbers, representing one amount, such as 5 minutes is a long time. 5 minutes is one amount of time. 1/3 is still going to be a fraction, one portion of a larger whole. Therefore, it's singular. So, how to work with collective nouns. Suggestion. Add members of in front of the noun to see if the collective noun refers to the group acting as individuals. Meaning, is it the whole group acting as one, or is it the group acting singularly? If members of makes sense in the sentence, meaning it may not be everyone in the group, but just certain members of the group, then you treat it as though it's plural. Members discuss, because members we treat as plural. However, if that doesn't work, then the collective noun is probably going to be acting as one whole group or idea. The minority of the pizza. Minority would be an example of a collective noun here. Minority of the pizza was or were eaten before we arrived. Members of the minority of the pizza make absolutely no sense whatsoever. Therefore, we go with was, because it's singular makes the most sense. Let's do some practice together. An orchestra consists of a large group of musicians. So is that one whole group acting together, or is it individual members of the orchestra make a large group of musicians? Well, in that case, members of the orchestra consist of a large group. It doesn't really work. So one whole orchestra consists is the better choice. Second example. 75 is or are the typical number of members in a symphony orchestra. The question is that one amount? Well, yes, it is. One amount is the typical number. Continuing. However, this crowd of music lovers is or are willing to wait even longer. Crowd is a collective noun. Is this crowd is, or is it simply members of the crowd are willing to wait? Well, probably not everyone in the crowd is willing to wait, but probably just some members within the crowd individually have decided. So members of the crowd are. You might have chosen are anyway because you think the subject is music lovers, and that comes right in front of it, and therefore it sounds right to have a plural noun in front of the verb. However, of music lovers is a prepositional phrase and technically isn't part of the subject at all. The majority of the student body participate or participates in co-curricular activities. Majority also would be a collective noun. So is it simply members of the majority or the majority acting as a whole? Well, it's really majority of the members of the student body. So it's most of the individuals, and therefore we treat it as plural. All right, common one. The jury state or states that the woman is not guilty. So is it the jury acting as a whole or individual members of the jury? Well, the whole jury here, the jury states, because the jury, only the jury collectively can define someone guilty or not guilty. It's one collective decision. Though they might argue and deliberate individually, they must come to a collective decision, therefore we treat it as singular. This is definitely tricky. Take your time, even if it means you need to write members of in the actual sentence to see if that works and then cross things out. That's okay. The key is don't just go with what sounds right. Try to find a way to make it be able to explain your answer. Even a teacher can stumble over trying to figure these out. So do your best and good hunting.